Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Scott. I'll be your host today. Got a good show for you. I got another guest coming on. I'm going to bring him on in just a moment. As always, you can find this in the back episodes of our podcast at our website. It's called ordinarymarathoner.com. Check it out if you get a chance. You can also find them at the aggregators, places like Stitcher and TuneIn and iTunes. And if you like the show, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new episode that way. We also got our YouTube channel out, so we're posting the podcast. There's no real video on the podcast, but it's just another avenue, another place you can find them over at our YouTube channel. We just bought a bunch of video equipment too, so we kind of have in the works a potential sort of like a weekly video show. That's what we're thinking, but who knows? We're excited about it. Don't know what it's going to be. Don't know where it's going, but it's fun to have those YouTube channels. We're gonna do something over there. We'll figure it out as we go, I think. You can find me over at Twitter at OrdMarathoner. That's O-R-D Marathoner. Follow me there. I'll follow you back. We can talk over there, or you can find our discussion group on Facebook. It's called Ordinary Marathoners. It's a closed group. Got to add yourself to it, but we'll put you through right away. And you can either join the conversation right away, or you can just be a lurker and read what everyone else is saying. It's a good group. Plenty of both people, by the way. Our last podcast guest, Bill Costello, mentioned that he reads it all the time. He doesn't participate. He feels like he likes sort of staying from afar, but that's fine. That's fine. You can be a lurker. You can participate. Nobody bites over there. Everyone's really good-hearted and positive, supportive. It's a good group. Check it out especially if you're a Facebook person. Ordinary Marathon, our virtual race. It's not too far away. Registrations will be closing on April 20th, so get in there if you can. You can sign up over at ordinarymarathon.com. And the proceeds are going to American Cancer Society. We have a great group of people already signed up. It's a 10-day race. No, you do not have to run a full marathon in order to participate. You can be any level of runner. And, 10 days, you have 10 days to run. If you want to make it your goal to do a total aggregate of a marathon, it's like, 2.6 miles a day. We can do that. You can walk it. It's fine. No one cares. We just want to celebrate the running community as a whole and just get together and participate on social media. And it will be a great event. Just want to mention the sponsors really quickly. The sponsors for the Ordinary Marathon, it's Greasy Girl Headbands. That's GREECIE. Destination Vacation, excuse me, you can find them over at destination-vacation.com. The Sam Fund, another cancer-related charity started by Samantha Watson. They're a great group over there, always supportive of the Ordinary Marathoner station and our little pet projects here. Nathan Sports will be giving away some items during the race. And Forever Home Running, it's FUR, Forever Home. They have something to do with animals, a lot of animal rescue stuff. And I know I have a rescue dog. I have a cat actually two cats. Oh yeah, we're cat people. Two cats that were both rescues. And, I love people that get involved with saving animals. It's just a great charity. And he's helping us with the race. He's sort of our race director. He doing a good job so far. No complaints. You always got to wait till the final product, I guess, is out and make sure everyone's happy. But so far, so good. And Scott Farsard over there, he's actually going to be a guest on the podcast in the coming weeks as well. But he's been doing a great job for us for the Ordinary Marathon. My guest today, Mike Terruso. Welcome to the program.
Hey, man. How are you?
Good. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you are already entered in the Ordinary Marathon as well.
I believe so.
I think you were one of the first guys on board.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Thank you for joining. It's good to have you in the group, man. We, I think we probably, I don't know when exactly you joined, but I know I sort of kind of started seeing you on the radar, a little bit before the Phoenix Marathon that we did back in February.
So I on Twitter I started seeing, I was super excited for that race, obviously, for obvious reason. We'll talk about that in a little while, but I started seeing your group and a few others, so a lot of good content in there. So followed you and started following the podcast, and now a lot of those training runs were listening to the podcast. So wow, it got me through some of them.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear. Like people tell me that all the time, and Yeah, I like listening to music a lot of times on my runs. I have tried podcasts too. I listen to Diz Runs and Martinez Evans, 300 Pounds of Running here and there. I don't listen to, I gotta admit, I don't listen to them a lot. I kind of like the music, but it's like really kind of, I don't know, it makes this all worthwhile when I talk to people like you who say, that it's good to know that the time that I spend, having guests on the program, that it's actually going to something good and that you can benefit from it. So thanks for listening.
It's great to have that, because a lot of times there, in the content in some of these podcasts, that just a random thing might spark an idea or help with your training. So I try to listen to as many of those as I can, in addition to Netflix, right? So I call it Netflix and Mill. Right. So a lot of Netflix on the treadmill this winter, and as you know, up there in Boston, you guys have a bad winter as well. Here in New Jersey, we've gotten so much snow. I have trees in the backyard that are still down from the last storm.
Oh,
so, man. It's been really tough.
It has been hard. I've gotten outside the last 2 weekends to run, but I haven't gotten the bike. It has, for me, I know I'm kind of a wimp, but for me, running, I kind of like it to be at least 40 degrees. For the bike, it's got to be 55 degrees, because it's just, you move faster and your hands get freezing cold. Yeah, you wear gloves most of the time, but I don't know. It's just something about, I don't know, the cold. It's just, it's been really bad. And like we said just before the podcast, it's April already, and we had snow up here yesterday.
I had one day we were me and my training partner training for Phoenix, and it was 15 degrees outside, and it was a 20-mile day, and I had a chunk of sweat in the back of my hood. It was just when we finished, a chunk. It was a block of sweat in the back of my hood. It was a sweatsicle. And I have some. Remind me to send you a photo of a guy I took in Central Park in New York City a couple of years ago. It was during the Fred Lebow half marathon, and he had icicles hanging from his hat at the finish. So I took a picture of that, and it's probably one of my favorite photos of runners. It's so cool to see that. And the sweatsicles come on.
I tell you, so Stephanie had done, I want to say it was the New York City half, maybe 5 years ago, but it could have been a different race. And she had similar stories where it was 5 degrees or something ridiculous. And, you go to the race and you bundled up, and she didn't have gloves that day. And she was running down the street, and her fingers were frozen, and she saw someone else had thrown their gloves away. So she picked up some gloves that she found on the ground, and she just wore those. You got to do what you got to do, man. If you see those gloves, you got to pick them up. I don't know, man. I sign up. I usually sign up for for my earliest race up here is usually mid-March. We have a race called the Holyoke Road Race, which is a 10K. I didn't do it this year because I was spectating my friend down at the New York City half this year, but.
That's right. You were up here for that. That's
right. And that was a fun race. Did you run it? You didn't. Obviously, you didn't run it.
I was there. I would have.
Oh, right. We did talk about that.
Here. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mike lives in New Jersey, not too far. You're kind of on the other side of New York, I guess, from here. How far south in New Jersey are you? Are you?
I'm in Central Jersey. So for me, a train ride to New York City. I work in New York City, so I work in Midtown, 55th and Broadway. So every day to me, it's 2-hour commute door to door. So. Lots of sleeping to do on the train. That's each brutal. Direction. So that's 4 hours out of the day in commuting. And that's when the trains are running right.
And you train.
And I train.
But you don't train on the train.
No. Central Park is my training grounds. It's great that I'm right there at Central Park. So at lunchtime, I go out in the park. I usually run a full loop, nothing shorter. I get all the hills. If you're familiar with Central Park, which I'm sure you are.
Harlem Hill, six
about 6
Hill, miles.
Cat Hill. Yeah. So it's a 10K loop around the park. It's probably my favorite place to run, only because that's where I got my start.
Yeah.
Right? Because when I first started running, I started running in Central Park. It was the first time I ever set foot in Central Park, really. And I ran a 5K with a guy from work, and I nearly died. I felt like I was going to die.
Yeah.
That was back in 2011. Right, so in 2011.
So that's when you started, huh? Wow.
That's when I started. So it wasn't too long ago. It's 7 years ago. I ran it in under 30 minutes. I felt like garbage at the end. But the one thing and this guy he's my mentor. Mm-hmm. I always call him my mentor now. He told me when I went with him, He said, the only thing I want you not to do is I don't want you to stop. No matter what you feel, don't stop. Even if you have to run in place, I don't care. Just kind of keep pressing forward. And I did that. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times I come back to that moment in a marathon. Yeah. Now, even in Phoenix.
And I got to tell you, yeah. That's a really cool idea. You know, like that's great. But I'm sorry, I cut you off. What?
It's just that mantra where you got to keep putting, and everyone tells you keep putting your one foot in front of the other, and I can't tell you how true that is, because I've found I've run 15 marathons now. Not all of them have been BQ attempts. I think maybe 5 or 6 of them were, and I can tell you about those if you want to hear about that. But it's always been, the mind over matter, and I got, maybe if I stop for 30 seconds. I'll feel better, and then I can press on again. And I can tell you every single time that's happened, it's gone downhill. The wheels fall off the bus as soon as you make that stop. Yeah. So always come back to that mantra and say, keep moving. Even if you have to move in place at the water station or whatever, just keep moving forward. And it works.
Yeah, I got it. So I had issues when I did the Marine Corps marathon. I did it with Stephanie, and similar sort of mindset. It was just, we couldn't quit. We did a walk run. So we were walking at the time, but still it's, eventually you get there, right?
That's right. Like, you do.
Just keep moving forward. Eventually you get there.
The only way to get there to the end is to keep moving forward. And there's no way to go back to the beginning. Right. So you got to keep moving forward.
And, you made the commitment to do the race. So,
absolutely.
I've seen people think about quitting marathons at mile 24, and it's like, what are you going to, it's like you're here, you have 2 miles left to go. Like you've been doing this all day. Why are you going to stop now? And, I think, the only way, I remember even Ironman, being on the bike, I just remember thinking the only way that I'm not going to finish is if they tell me to stop.
Ironman, you guys are a different breed, and I give you all the credit, man. I can't imagine. I know what I feel like after a 100-mile bike ride. I've done the Grand Final in New York before twice. I know what I feel like after 26.2. I can't imagine putting all of that together in one single event in one day. I can't fathom it. I don't know how you guys do it.
I think you'd be surprised. I think you'd be surprised. I mean, you're not going to go, the only thing is for you, like, you're not going to go throw the wetsuit on at lunch and go swimming around the East River. Like, you just.
I wouldn't dip my toe in the East River, Scott.
I hope you got a tetanus shot. But, you mentioned Central Park too. And when I moved to New York, in 2001, and I had a friend of mine who was training for New York City Marathon, and your story is so similar to my story from that day, which was he's like, I'm going to do a loop around the park. And it was in the middle of the night, and I'd never really run the park before. So I was afraid I'd get lost. I had just moved to Manhattan, like literally that week. And, actually, I might not even been there yet. I think I just was there that night, and we ran a loop around the park, and same exact feeling where it's just, it's funny. Like I've never used that memory as like a motivator or as something to recall, but now that you've kind of said that, like it definitely is in there for me, because here was a guy who's, he could easily do 6 miles, probably similar to your friend, and he dragged me around that park that night. And I just wasn't going to quit. I didn't want to be the guy to be like, all right, look, you're training for a marathon, wait up for me, like I didn't want to slow his training. So I kept going, and I finished, and I had never run that far before. And I think, and we might have done a smaller loop. I want to say it was 4 miles, but, it was a very similar experience to what you say. It's like, it's kind of weird how, I guess it's not too weird, because Central Park is just such a central, like, obviously it's a central park, but everyone goes there, everyone runs there. But, I had a very similar experience. And then shortly after that, I actually entered the New York City Marathon lottery, and I didn't get in. That was 2001. And then I let myself go, and I didn't run again until 2014.
One of the unique things about Central Park, and I haven't found it in any other park. Even I've been to London, and I ran in some of the parks over there, and that's a great place to run too. The huge running community over there. But Central Park has so many different routes and distances that if you're not feeling that you want to go 6 miles and you're on that 6 mile loop, you can simply just cut away and make it a 4-mile loop or make it a 5-mile loop. And
they have a reservoir. The reservoir is a mile and a half.
The reservoir, that's if you start at the lower end of the park. You can make that that's what I call the 4-mile loop, or you can extend up to 103rd Street and make that the 103rd Street traverse and go the 5-mile. Or you can battle the Harlem Hill, which is no joke, and you can make that the 10K loop, which it's just short of a 10K, I think.
I used to run the reservoir all the time, and I never really ran the full loop too much. I did Harlem Hill once with Stephanie in training, maybe twice, because I think I did it in the New York City Half 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever I ran it. That hill, if I'm not mistaken, it's steep, and then you go up, and there's sort of like a turn, and you kind of feel like maybe it's done, and then you turn, and it
gets worse. The one thing that I always take away from that hill is the fact that there is a huge boulder that protrudes over the roadway
near that turn.
It's right at that turn, and if you look up on the boulder. The geology, I guess the New York City Geology Department has a monitor on that boulder to see if it's cracking.
Oh, really?
So there's it looks like a little Band-Aid on it, and they measure the separation of there's a crack on it. So I always run around the boulder.
Right, because
I don't run onto that boulder. I always run around that boulder. So if you see this weird guy running up the hill and he decides to go around this boulder, that's why. And it's me.
You don't want to be the guy running, eventually that thing falls. You don't want to be the guy.
No, you end up being Wile E. Coyote and you get this boulder falling on you.
Yeah, you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy. Listen, we got a lot to talk about. Let's cut to break here. It's funny. So I told you before the show, I like to do a little outline and kind of plot out what we were going to talk about. And so far, in the first 15 minutes, we've talked about absolutely none of the things.
None of the things.
But that's the way this works. That's the way this podcasting stuff works. But we're going to talk about those things after the break with Mike Terruso. Hey guys, my friend Lauren is creating an incredible resource for runners and triathletes. It's called raceadvisors.com. She has amassed a list of thousands of races, 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, marathons, ultramarathons, and triathlons, and anything in between. If you're thinking about running a race, look it up and check out the reviews. Have a favorite race of your own? Look it up. See what others have to say about it. Or better yet, leave a review of your own. Raceadvisors.com. Read it, race it, review it. I want to tell you guys about another great small business I've come across while doing this podcast. It's called Greasy Girl Headbands. I know. I have very short hair, so what could I possibly know about headbands? Well, I know that I bought one for my wife Stephanie and daughter Samantha this Christmas. Stephanie, she uses it for what it was designed for, running and working out. But 8-year-old Sam, well, she just wears hers all the time. So the question is, how can you get one? Well, that's easy. You head on over to greasygirlheadbands.com. It's spelled Greeecie, girlheadbands.com, and select from the many styles and options they have available. I'm sure you'll find one that's just perfect for you. All right, we are back now from break with Mike Terruso. I gotta tell you, we were talking about winter before. I have to update our Greasy Girl Headbands commercial there because it still talks about Christmas, and we're a long way from Christmas, but it just seems like.
Wait, it's not Christmas?
I don't know. If you look outside, sometimes it seems like it's still Christmas.
I'm telling you, this weather's horrible.
It's awful. Anyway, so I want to take a step back here and talk about the things that we were going to talk about that we planned all along. Phoenix Marathon, mid-February. There it is. You got the hat. I don't have a hat like that. I kind of want a hat like that, I got to say.
Scott, we wanted to get you a hat like this.
That makes my heart warm. It's a Boston qualifier hat, folks, is what it is.
Yeah, so the unique thing about Phoenix, and I've never seen it in any races, that if you finally or you qualify for Boston in their race, they give you a headband indicating that you've qualified for Boston, and it's probably my favorite running paraphernalia right now.
Yeah, that's something to be proud of.
It's great.
It's better than the medal. Actually, their medal was kind of nice, but that I think I would be prouder of that.
I'm upset about the medal, not because of this year's medal, but because I had to skip last year's Phoenix because I was going for the 5,
right?
And I'm missing the 1 medal out of the 5.
Oh man!
So I'm a little upset, but I had to. I couldn't run it last year because I was injured. But we can get into that.
Explain the 5. What is?
So Starting 2 years ago, they had all the metals look similar. So they have like copper, and there's symbols on the metals. And when you put all the metals together, they make one huge metal.
Yeah.
So you fit them all together. It's absolutely great. It's a great concept.
It is, right? That's pretty cool.
As a race director myself, we try to think of things like that. But that was absolutely a great idea to bring people back year after year. And for me, I'm upset that I couldn't get that one medal. You know, my goal was to go and run all 5 and get them.
Yeah.
And put that up on my wall. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to wait.
You missed the year
for them to come out of that. I missed the year.
So what happened if they're all different colors? Like, do you go back and you have to do one more? Do you have to request the color that you're missing?
I don't know how that works. I have 2 of them. I have 3 of them now. I'm just missing the one, and I'm going to go back next year. I'll get the 4 out of 5, but not because I want the medals, but because I love that race. Phoenix Marathon to me is for me the best race in the country. For me.
Wow, you've run.
That race.
I'm sure you've run some of the major. You probably ran New York.
I ran New York City Marathon in 2014. I've run the Long Island Marathon several times. I've run Steamtown twice. I've run the Via Marathon out in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. If anyone's heard, that's the marathon where it was the same year where the train came through. There was a train that came through the route and it stopped.
Oh my God!
The Via Marathon is the absolute last race to qualify for Boston in that cycle. So there's a lot of people run to that race to try to qualify as a last ditch effort for that coming year. I was no different, right? So I missed it. The train went through after we passed through, thankfully, a couple of minutes after we passed through, but a whole bunch of people lost out and they didn't correct the times. And it was a very, 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 very negative thing about that marathon. But it was also 82 degrees that day.
Ouch. Yeah.
So it was extremely hot. It was in the middle of September. And that was the year I tore my hamstring.
During the race.
During the race, it's the weirdest feeling because as you're running, you feel what feels like hot liquid getting poured down the back of your leg. And it's just the weirdest feeling. And then no pain right away, but as you keep going.
It sounds like you shit yourself, actually.
But I did a double take, and it wasn't that. I've never done that before. But yeah, it feels like someone just poured hot liquid down the back of your leg. It's the only way I can describe it. And then I limped. I limped for the rest of the way, and
you finished.
I was running with somebody. And I finished under 4 hours, Scott. I don't know how.
Wow.
But I did, and that just goes to show that the fast pace in the beginning. We had a pretty good pace going for the first half, but we finished, and I was kind of proud about that under 4. I was like, wow, I'm injured. I'm limping. I'm practically crying through the finish line, and I did it.
Oh man, that's.
When if I look back several years, I was struggling to even come anywhere near 4 hours. Yeah. So, with changing training, and we can get into my training habits if you want to discuss that. But over the past 15, I've kind of, perfected for me what works for the marathon. And in Phoenix this year, I didn't change so much of my training habit, but I changed my hydration and my fueling plan. And I think that was the single thing that did it for me this year.
Yeah.
Was that fueling and hydration.
Yeah. I mean, we mentioned Phoenix, and I kind of want to. I think I kind of want to let's take this from the angle of really the whole weekend, because I think it was such a special time for you.
I was amped.
So we had a whole group of of people that were connected to the podcast or to our virtual race or all that kind of stuff, meeting us there. You had reached out to us. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance really to sit down or hang out before the race, which, you know what, I got to tell you, if I was gunning for a BQ, I think I would just be in my own mind. I just want to be in my own spot, in my own place for like a few hours, maybe a day or two beforehand.
I was nervous. I don't think I could sit still. We had to go do stuff. We had, and I met you guys in
Walmart. So
all places.
Yeah. So we had gotten to Phoenix, and you think when you're in, when you live up in the Northeast and you think I'm going to Phoenix, you think, warm weather and warm temperature. And I know it gets cold at night, and I know it gets cold in the winter a little bit, but it turned out to be pretty darn cold those few days that we were there.
35 degrees at the start.
Yeah, I mean, I'm even shocked it was that warm. So when we found that out, Stephanie and I we had gone to sign up and check in for the race, and then we saw the Walmart. We went right across, and it's funny because I still get sort of like this weird thing when people say hello to me, and you probably will appreciate this from being a New Yorker. Is like when people say Scott or hey Scott, like my first inclination is like, how the hell do you know me? But we're in our ordinary, right, and then who the hell are you? Yep. So and then when you introduce yourself, I'm like, oh, of course. But yeah,
all the places.
Yeah,
all the places.
Walmart.
We meet in Walmart.
Well, and it's like America's backyard. I mean, it's like Central Park. It's the chances of us meeting two places: Central Park or Walmart. And it's a pretty good shot. Right. So you were just killing time.
I was getting something warm to wear at the start.
That's what we were doing too.
As you mentioned, it was 35 degrees, and I was looking for some sort of zip up or sweatpants to wear where I could just throw them away or what. Yeah. Because I was only prepared to run in a singlet and shorts. Right. So I was prepared to run in, 45 to 50, 60 degree weather.
Yeah. You can get away with that in that weather. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wasn't prepared for the start. We huddled around for those that don't know about Phoenix, they give you the heated, the propane
heat lamps. Yeah. The big heat lamps.
Yeah. We were all huddled around.
That was nice. That was a nice touch.
Yeah, it was nice, but I'm 5'6", Scott.
It's still a long way.
Yeah, so if you're 6 foot or above, you were warm. Me, I was shivering. I was definitely cold. It was
and that'll throw you off. Especially you have a focus, you have a goal to hit, and you got to stand around for probably at least a half an hour. And especially this race where you hit the buses beforehand, they bus you out, and. Yep. And then you got to get off the bus and you got to sit there and wait. So,
and the nice thing about them this year was they would have allowed you to sit on the bus.
Someone told me that too. That's great.
Until 15 minutes before the start of the race. Yeah. And I'm not going to say I was so amped and just in the zone. I had like the blinders on. I really didn't talk to anybody that morning. And I'm like, I got to get off this bus. I didn't care how cold it was. I got to get off this bus and walk around. But yeah, it was nice that they provided that to everybody.
And so Phoenix, like you mentioned before, it's kind of known as a Boston qualifier race. A lot of people go there to try to qualify. Thus, they're prepared with the hats that you
yes.
the hat
and
that you got.
I just looked at this year. It is still the number one race to date of the highest percentage of BQers.
Yeah, so people do head out there. I don't even know if I've mentioned this, but I'm actually already signed up for next year's race in Phoenix. And I got a hotel room right next to the start there, really the finish, where the buses are. I figured, if I can get a hotel right there, and that it could be a good race for me, good day. And so I'm looking forward to. I don't know that I'm necessarily could be in BQ shape by then. I think it's going to take a couple of years for me if I want to go that route. Haven't really
got a whole year.
I haven't really decided yet. I'm like, I weigh 225 pounds right now, and I don't, even if I got down to 200, which is probably like my fighting weight recently, it's like I don't know that a 200-pound guy, 5'9", 200 pounds, BQs and runs a 320. I don't know that is too possible.
To I guess refute that.
Yeah, I want to hear it because I hear a lot of negative stuff, and it's not negative. You know what it is? It's proper feedback from people that know what the journey is like or would be like for me if I set that as a goal and wanted to get anywhere close to it. They know the work that needs to be put in, and it's
I started in 2011. I was 196 pounds. I was pushing 200. I'm like I said, I'm 5'6", so it's a small frame. I have pictures I can send to you, and you're going to be like, well, "That's you?" And So I started running that way, and right now for Phoenix this year, I was the heaviest I've been in any marathon that I've run. So I had a really tough time with cutting weight for the marathon. And cutting weight for a marathon is kind of counterproductive, right? Because you got to eat more to support your training habits. So I did put on some weight. So when I ran Phoenix in 2015, the last time I ran it, I was 160 even, so I got down to my goal weight. This year, I was 170 when I went off in Phoenix. Wow, and I still had a successful day. So I don't think that weight plays a huge part in a marathon per se.
Yeah.
I think that if you're training at that weight, you're going to be successful at that
Interesting.
weight.
Yeah, right? That's a good point.
If you put on the weight after during it, you're like, I mean, the analogy I use, go ahead and strap on 10 pounds right now and go for a run, see how you feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Not going to feel too good on that rep. So, but if it's a slow progression and you're training at that weight, I think you still could do it. You can definitely, it's doable.
And in the back of my mind, I obviously I have the Ironman in 3.5 months. That's got to be my number one focus, because if I don't focus on that, I'm going to die. And then after that, I'm kind of thinking, I'm going to run Phoenix next year, but I don't, my fastest marathon is 5:15. So I'm like nowhere near like a BQ time. I'm going to probably do a fall marathon. I'm thinking Hartford, right now, just cause I really just want to stay local. I don't want to travel. This sport gets expensive when you start adding travel,
Yeah, yes, sir.
And it's the most simple sport, right? All you need is sneakers. That's all you need. And somehow
a cheap throwaway at Walmart.
Right, there you go. You definitely need that. And, but then you start traveling for these races and participating in so many races, and you know, race fees and all that stuff, and it all starts to add up. So I think I'm just going to kind of stay local and do Hartford in the fall. Unless someone hits me up with like a New York City entry or something like that, Ramon, if you're out there listening.
I always try to do a fall and a spring marathon, and I've found that success also follows when you do something consistently.
Yep.
So if you're not doing, let's say you don't do a marathon in 2 years, and then you go back and try to do one, I think you'd have more success in reaching a goal if you stuck to a consistent plan and doing that fall, doing the spring marathon race, and then let's say your A race for the marathon is the spring of the following year. You're coming off of a successful fall, you got that marathon in, and now your mind is right, and you're physically, I think your body's ready for it, right?
Yeah.
So your body gets used to what you do. I mean, it's just a machine, and it anything repetition, it gets used to doing that muscle memory. So the more you do it, the better you'll be, right? So I try to keep that schedule.
And I think about it, and I'm like, all right, I think if I'm in Ironman shape by July, that if I do a fall race, that, I should be able to get through 5 hours. So like if I can get to 4.5, 4:45, something like that, that's a good progression. And then if I run Phoenix 6 months later, 4 or 5 months later, whatever it is, it's a fast race. Maybe I can get to 4 hours. I don't know, but it sounds like a potential progression. And then I would have a year from there to the next Phoenix, that where if I'm in the right frame of mind, who knows, So I have, I hired a coach. I'm actually talking now to a dietitian as well. I'm thinking about having her on the program. We just have to figure out if we're really gonna.
You need to let me know when you have her on, because I need a dietitian. That's one thing that I lack is eating right.
And one of the things that's killing is I don't eat right. I don't eat. I fall into bad habits all the time, and I could train and burn over 1,000 calories a day for a week and put on weight if I'm not careful. Right. Which is not good. That means I'm eating and drinking way too much. But I'm also the kind of person where if you give me a prescription, I'll follow it. If you write it down and give me a plan, right, I will follow it. So if there is, if I can get together with someone who knows what they're talking about, and we can write down like a list of, hey, all right, you should be eating 5 times a day or 6 times a day or whatever it is. And you can eat more often during the day, as long as you just restrict the calories within each meal. And I think that's part of my problem is not that I'm hungry, it's that I get bored and I always go back to the food, and I always take if I need something quick, there's never a healthy option. There's never, it's not a, but if I had it written down, like, all right. If you're hungry at 3:00 in the afternoon, make sure you have, an apple or something, or something there that, as opposed to the vending machine or like always have alternatives. That's why I kind of want her and to like give me a plan. So I'm working with her to see if we can get that together.
And now I'm thinking about what you're saying, and then I'm thinking about what I do, and it's always the night that I usually go haywire, right?
Yeah, always.
Eating, right? It's at night. So it's the cookies, it's the ice cream in the freezer, it's the, and look, I don't eat right. I know that. And if I did, I probably would have more of a runner physique and maybe get a little faster. But it's so hard not. If it's in the house, you're going to eat it. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
If it's there, you're going to eat it. And I've tried to like maybe take a bite, throw the rest of it out. That doesn't work because it just tastes too damn good.
You pull it out of the garbage can. No,
we're normal people. I like to eat and I like to indulge, especially in between, finishing up Phoenix and now getting started back in my training regimen again.
Yeah.
That period between, I ate.
So yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. So, we kind of rifled through, I guess, the Phoenix story, but, let's go back there real quick. The race itself. Obviously we talked about you standing under the heat lamp, getting ready to go. When did you know? I mean, obviously you knew beforehand that you were going for this thing. But when did you know that you had it?
I was at mile 20. Well, so I had my support group along the course. They were great, by the way. They my girlfriend and my friend Robin, who lives out in Phoenix, they were in 3 parts of the course. My cheering squad, they were at 7, 16, and 21. So to have that was great too, because you don't know anybody as you're running along the course. You're watching funny signs. That's great, but to keep your mind occupied and then see that person that there to supporting you gives you that boost. But when I saw them at mile 21, I basically looked at my watch and I said, I have about 8 minutes in the bank. I'm doing pretty good. And they're like, you got it. But no, I until I made the turn onto, I don't know what street that is, but I even used the similar saying that they say in Boston, left on Hereford, right on Boston, whatever it is. I said that exact same thing, but using the street names in Phoenix. So I was like, yes, left on Bass Pro. And so as soon as I made the left on Bass Pro,
which is right near the finish,
it's about 0.2 of a mile to the finish, and I said to myself, now I can relax. I know I have it. But it wasn't until I made the final turn around. There's a bend that you have to go around. You see the finish line in the distance. You hear the music, you hear the crowd. Until I saw the clock. So my goal time was 2:20. 3:20. 2:20. I wish it was 2:20. Would have won. 3:20. So my BQ time is 3:25. So I figured I'd give myself a 5-minute 5-minute buffer. This year was tough. In Boston, it was like 3 minutes, 28 seconds for the buffer you needed on top of your BQ time. So I wanted to have at least nice 5-minute buffer. But when I turned the corner and I saw 3:18 on the clock, and I nearly just cried.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to do. And so I sped up and I sprinted to the finish. And I felt so good. I guess I felt better than any marathon. And I kind of flipped out. I went into this rage. I was giving people high fives at the finish. I was so thankful that things went well.
Yeah, perfect day.
That it was the absolute perfect day. And the only thing that I can think of the entire time, every step, was what am I going to say when I fail this time? So when we go back and we talk about failure and succeeding in your goals, everyone fails. And it was so in my head that day that I was going to fail. Like I failed so many times before.
I was just going to say, like you said you did 5 times before, or 5 times that you went in thinking that you might do it.
5 or 6, absolutely. Steamtown was one of them. I blew up in Steam. The wheels fell off the bus in Steamtown. Long Island Marathon, I went in twice. The wheels fell off the bus. And it's always usually the same thing. And I'll go back to my original story where I tell yourself, don't stop. Keep moving. And this year was the first marathon I didn't stop a single time in all 26.2 miles. And for me, that's huge.
Now, do you stop at the water stops, like just to grab?
No.
You run through them?
No. Run through them, grab your water, and go.
Yeah.
I don't even slow down if I drop the water, I drop the water. There was times where I would practice water stations.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good point.
So you have a table set up in front. And it sounds ridiculous, but you have a table set up somewhere and you run by it and you grab water cups.
Yeah.
And you practice that drinking. Everything is practice. A lot of people don't think that you need to pay attention to those details. I'll drive the course the day before. We went out, my girlfriend and I, we drove the course that day, the day before.
Now, did they change it all? Or you've run it a few times before. So
I've run it 3 times. I know the course. I just need that visual. Yep. I haven't been there in a year. So I need to see the course to understand, one, where my support needs to be, and two, how am I going to attack this course? What lines am I going to take? What are the tangents? I know, again, it sounds ridiculous, but I think about those things. And
it's not ridiculous. It's not ridiculous.
It's just a lot of detail that went into this year that I never thought about before. And I made it a point to think about this year. And and now even any race I go to, that's especially a wave race, I will actually drive or bike the course just to get a lay of the land.
We drove the Lake Placid bike course because I hadn't been up there. So the day before the Ironman, we drove the bike course, and it was very informative. It was really, and it took like an hour to drive, but just to see where the hills were and
exactly
and all that stuff. And you mentioned lines, like the lines that you wanted to take, and the thing that I always think of I'm sort of like a very mathematical / efficiency nut job when it comes to stuff like this. And every once in a while, people will say, "Oh, like I did a half marathon, but when I was done, my GPS said I ran 15 miles, right?" And the first thing that someone will say is, "Well, you didn't run the actual line, the most efficient lines on the course. You pass people, you make turns, you do, you go wide, you do all that stuff, and that's what makes it seem longer than it really is." And I don't know, there's fallacies in that argument too, but that's always the first thing someone says. So it sounds to me like if you actually took the most efficient lines on the course, you could theoretically take a good chunk of distance out of the race. You know what I mean?
Well, the USATF, when they certify a course, they're measured on the tangent, right? So someone's drawing a line. So if you imagine a street corner and a turn coming up, they're going to draw a line diagonally from corner to corner, the shortest distance between two points in a straight line. They draw that straight line, and that's how it's measured. So if you run that line, you're running the 26.2 miles.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
It's very difficult to do that with a pack around you, but I always try to take that line. And why run more than you have to?
Exactly.
Why run more distance than you have to?
Exactly.
Just run the tangent, and your GPS will like you.
Yep, and I think that's a great point. And really, if you study the course ahead of time, it can give you a little bit of advantage that way. And I always, even like New York City now, I've done 3 times, and even like last time, I remember just after you do it a couple times, you kind of know where some of the turns are, so you can try to be on that exact tangent line that you were talking about. As opposed to running in a lane where you're going to wind up curving a turn wide or doing whatever. I think it makes a lot of sense, and especially when you're talking about trying to qualify for Boston, when every second counts.
Every second counts. Indeed, every second does count. And we train. We have a training schedule we follow, right? So we study our training plan, we study our fueling plan, we study our hydration plan. Why aren't we studying the course?
Exactly.
It's part of the training. It's part of the goal. You have to study the course. And I always make it a point to do that nowadays. So even if it's a 5K.
So now that you have qualified for Boston, now I had a friend of mine qualify a few years ago, and he's actually he's different. I mean that in a good way. He doesn't actually like running races. He likes running for himself. He thinks races inhibit his running, which, he's entitled to his opinion. Not everyone's a race person. So but his thing was even though he qualified for Boston, apparently you don't necessarily, it's not 100% guaranteed that you will be in Boston. Is that?
It depends on your time. So,
well, I was just going to ask you. You mentioned that like buffering time. Is that what it depends on?
Yes. So they only accept so many people in your age group based on time. So it's the fastest X number of people that they have positions open for. So this year, for example, was the hardest year, and I can't remember. You needed, so if your BQ time is 3:25, you needed to beat your BQ time by 3 minutes and 28 seconds to make the cut.
Now, is that to guarantee, or if you BQ, if you say you're 3:24, does that mean you're definitely out?
You're out if you don't make that kit time, and it happens to a lot of people, and I can't imagine how after working as hard as you do, and I understand why they do it, but after working as hard as I remember working for this,
yep,
I would be devastated if I missed a cut.
Yeah,
I have a nice 7-8 minute buffer, which you will pretty much guarantee.
Feels comfortable.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to have an issue there, but I can't imagine, not getting in after you use that time. So that's why I say if you have a BQ time, you have to give yourself that 5 minute buffer. So
yeah,
if BQ time is 3:25,
wow,
it's really 3:20.
Yeah, that's ooh.
It's tough. It is. And I understand. Like I said, I understand why they do it. There's only so many spots that are open in each age group, and they have to have the charities in there. So it is what it is. And I guess I can't really talk to it unless I've been in that position where I got cut.
Yeah, I can't imagine either.
So, but I know people that have been in that position.
Yeah, that sucks. Oh man.
Yeah, it does.
That sucks. I mean, I guess you're not even really up for consideration. You can. I guess you just. So BQ really means that you're qualified to submit an application, but it's still no guarantee that you're in because they're only going to take the best certain number of people within your age group.
That's right. So imagine if you remember the lottery for the New York City Marathon.
Yep.
Right. The only way you know you're in is when your credit card's charged. Right. Everyone's pressing the F5 all day and they're going crazy on their keyboards. It's kind of similar to that. So you register for Boston, and then you wait for your acceptance letter.
Right.
And if you start hearing people, "Woo, I'm in," and then I hear people that, "Well, I didn't get my letter," and it's like, "Well, what was your qualifying time?" And they're like, "Oh, I only had like 40 seconds."
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you're not. I don't think you're going to get in. As much as I hate to say it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to shoot them down, but realistically, over the years past, it's been 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and this year has been really tough. So it's just more people are qualifying.
So, you mentioned that you're going back to Phoenix to get this medal next year, but, assuming you get into Boston, you're going to be doing, so that's like 2 marathons and 2 and 3.
So I'm not running the marathon. I'm running the half marathon next year.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to come back. I've never run the half marathon course. We run it because
you run it because part of the, yeah.
But I've never started the half marathon and run the actual flat section of the course.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. But listen, I'm looking forward to following you and watching your training over the next year. I mean, is this something where you are you're content that you made Boston and you're going to just enjoy Boston for the ride, or is this something where you're maybe going to try to push through 3 hours in Boston?
No, I'm definitely not going for the 3 hour mark. That's a long shot, and I know that as you get closer to your time, things kind of get harder to get faster, right? So I think I'm at my limit right now. And the one thing that did come out of this is I said if I qualify, I'm retiring from the marathon. I'm done.
That's it, huh?
It's so much time that you take to train for this stuff.
Yeah.
Everything takes a backseat. Family life, everything takes a backseat. And at 46 years old, I'm just tired.
Yeah, and folks, let me tell you, I can look behind Mike on the Skype here, the Skype interview, and his entire back wall is bibs and medals. He's got his medals hung on the curtain rod. And I don't know, man. I think one more medal and that thing's coming down.
It might come down. I have to hang these up. I didn't check. I have to hang these up next. I didn't actually run this race. I'm the race director for this race. This is the
right.
Garden State 10 miler. We had some unique medals. I'll send you pictures of them. They're pretty cool. But they're so heavy. I'm afraid that they might.
Oh yeah, keep them down low.
so yeah. So right now, I think what I'm going to do in Boston is right now I'm thinking of just kind of enjoying the moment.
You earned it, man. You earned it.
Exactly. Enjoy it and not go there and drive myself nuts and saying I need to beat my time. I want to be able to enjoy it. And I want to come there for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I want to be there for all the events and kind of absorb it. Like you said, it's an earned thing. And I take pride in working hard and getting that. And then after that, I don't know. I think I'm going to stick to shorter distances for a while.
Yep.
Halves or less. I do have I'm going to go after my 5K PR this year. So if you don't know, I'm 9 seconds away from the sub 20. So
wow.
I'm going to come, and that was back in 2014. So that PR must fall. It's time for that sucker to go down. So I'm after that this fall.
There you go.
So that's my goals for this year.
Excellent. I think that's awesome. I'm looking forward. Like I said, I'm looking forward to following you. Over your journey the next year. Looking forward to seeing you again, at least in Phoenix next year, perhaps beforehand. I wish you the best of luck. I got to tell you, this chat is like, it's gotten me a little fired up. I'm like, good. A little fired up. I got a 2-hour run today. Looking forward to getting out there and doing it. It's like 45 degrees. That's plenty. We're doing good. Doing good on the temp.
And the only other thing I can add to this whole thing is like it's hard to find a good running partner, I guess. Right. Yeah. So the one thing that I did do is I found a partner that runs. She's much faster than me, but she's consistent. Like, found cadence wise, we're like on pace. Very comfortable pacing next to somebody like that, and consistency like that going into a race by yourself, and you're still hitting those cadences. It's just very helpful to have a partner.
Yeah.
To help you along your journey. So. Props to her. If she ever ends up listening to the podcast, I have to send it to her. But she helped quite a bit.
That's good.
As well as everyone else. My support along the course, having my fuel and everything.
Yeah, it's a big support system. I have the same thing at home. Stephanie supports me all the time, and just it's a commitment. This stuff is a commitment if you wanna be involved in endurance racing for sure, and it's a lot of work. So
it is.
So you do have to thank that support system all the time. Make sure they got your back. They always do. They
are in Boston as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually, someone else told me they were doing Boston that year. I forget who. I've never really. I used to live there. I think one time I was lucky enough to kind of have the day off, or maybe I got out early and I was able to kind of participate a little bit and watch and watch the events and had a blast. It's such a fun day in that city. So I'm thinking about taking a day off and heading out there too. It'd be good to see you, cheer you on, meet you at the bar after.
Not that I don't want to come see you beforehand, but I'm not stepping foot in the city of Boston until 2019.
That's going to be magic for you, man. That's going to be great. Well, I wish you the best of luck, Mike. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. We're going to wrap it up there. I want to thank Mike Terruso for coming on the show. Wish him good luck going forward. Next week, who else am I going to have? I have Benjamin Hinton. I've been telling him I'm going to have him come on. He's a guy. He's a runner. He's a fast dude. He advocates for traumatic brain injury, and I don't know, amazing guy, and he's got a lot to say. So I think I'm going to try to get him on the show, drag him on. And, I was thinking about putting these things out every Sunday. I mentioned this the last podcast and doing it every Sunday. But then Mike actually mentioned that, people go on their long runs for the weekend. So they like to have a nice fresh podcast, for like that Saturday, Sunday long run. So maybe I'll change it up and put them out on a Friday. I'm not sure. I'm going to rethink this and we'll get back to you. Hey, you know what? I've been consistently inconsistent for the last 2 years. What's another week? So
yeah, that's consistent, right?
Exactly. So we'll see how it goes. And until then, always remember, when it comes to running, I'm no expert. I'm just ordinary.